Conclave is a cornerstone event of our commitment to fostering meaningful dialogue and creating opportunities while we drive mutual growth in our ecosystem. It reflects a dedication and the opportunities within our entire ecosystem. Today, we are gathered here as visionaries, decision makers, and collaborators, united by a shared goal of unlocking potential and creating value in the ever-evolving financial landscape. The theme of this conclave, Pressure to Plateau, Nigerian Renaissance, Risk and Reward, offers a deep dive into Nigerian macroeconomic landscape and the key developments shaping the business and investment climate. At CardinalStone, we pride ourselves on building enduring relationships and delivering tailored solutions to meet the dynamic needs of our investors and stakeholders. This conclave serves as an extension of that commitment. It is a platform to exchange ideas, share insights, and collectively chart a path towards sustainable success.
The story appears to be a bit different. Take, for example, we used to have capital restrictions. People could not take out their money from Nigeria. We had PMS subsidies and FX subsidies, which was taking over 10 trillion naira from the budget of the country annually. We had the CBN financing of the government. We had other issues that were prevalent in the economy. But now, we have FX, which is more market determined, which is what everybody here and other policymakers are clearly clamoring for. We have exchange rates being market reflective. We have more deregulation being prevalent in the energy sector. We have more liquidity in the FX markets. Take, for example, about $7 billion exited the market last year. There was no single news about it because there was enough liquidity to cater for everybody. We have the CBN switching from its non-traditional method to traditional method. Clearly, this has shown that we've gone back to the level where we used to make reforms, and this has shown that the struggles that Nigeria has faced over the last 5 years, we appear to be coming to a level where we are comforted. And that was where brought about the topic from pressure to plateau.
One is both oil and non-oil revenues will be significantly better in 2025 than in 2024. Facts. If not for anything, subsidy on fuel is about 2.2% of GDP. FX subsidy is about 3% of GDP. So we have at least 5% of GDP that we're saving now in 2025. And it is the first time in our history, October last year, that we truly deregulated PMS pricing. Because it's the first time that the NMPC is not coming to tell us the pump price. So that is revenue. In addition to that, volumes are already going up for production. We're now around 1.9 million. Some people think that 2 million in the budget is not realistic. It's realistic. Rig counts are up 78%. So you know when there is activities to produce more, the numbers will tell you. Nigeria is now back to being the #1 destination for investment in oil and gas sector. We've now overtaken Angola. So those are indications that production volumes will go up. If you're already at 1.9, that is including condensates, to find another 100,000 is not out of reach. So I think that is realistic. How about inflation? People say, where did they find 15% from? And I say, so what's wrong with 15%? And I'll tell you the way I see it, and you don't need to agree with me, right? There's the base effect. Base effect means, at least in this context, last year the average inflation was 33%. So we started at 100, ended 133 on the average. If the pressure on inflation remains the same as 2024, and prices go up by another 33 naira, right? You are now doing 33 over 133. That gives you 25. So without doing anything and just playing on the base effect, we'll have inflation for this year at 25%, fact. But if you think about what caused inflation to go up significantly in 2024, those factors no longer exist, or at least to a very limited extent only. Number one, the FX pass-through. 900 was where we started. We ended at 1,550. At some point, it was 1,900. That's massive impact on costs. Number two, energy prices. Energy prices will show up in diesel, and I'm sure my brother will testify to that. Just imagine powering your stations with diesel 24 hours, and the price has gone up multiple times. The same thing with petrol. We're not going to have that anymore. The outlook is, the other thing that adds to inflation, apart from the price of energy, right, that also includes band A, is the fact that for fuel products, whenever you have scarcity, it escalates costs. Do you agree with me? Now, we're not going to have scarcity because we now have supply security. There's Dangote there begging people to come and take fuel. Dangote now is our reserve of fuel. Can supply many days of product. So you guarantee the supply, and then we don't expect. With Trump saying you should drill and drill and drill more, not believing in the environment, you can expect one direction. America will be by far, they will expand the gap between them and number 2 oil-producing country in the world. They will go up over and above what they were in 2024, but at a slower pace. So, anybody that thinks that it should be higher than that should come and tell me their data points. So growth is expected to improve, and we expect that the student loans, the minimum wage, the taxes exemption, and the consumer credit will put more purchasing power into the hands of people. So if you're a poor person and you were saving all the money you could find and borrowing from cooperative to pay school fees, now you don't need to pay that school fees. Your child gets the loan, and the money you were using to pay the school fees before, you can now use it for consumption, right? You see, that's how it plays out. So the student loan would also eventually translate to like consumer credit. And then there's consumer credit as of itself, more spending on infrastructure, and then what the rest of the world is doing. So in conclusion, all of these will measure progress when we see the enabling environment improving, and the way you will know is confidence will be restored. When you have foreign portfolio investors coming in, it's an indication of short-term confidence. When you see FDI, it's an indication of long-term confidence. So we are at that journey now. We've seen FPI, it's been sustained, and we expect that FDI will start coming in. Better policy coordination, particularly monetary, fiscal, and trade, fair taxation, responsible borrowing, and sustainable spending.
The capital market specifically, we would like to also see some reforms in the markets. We would like the NGX and the whole capital market to try and also start reforming with what we are seeing from the government. Today, we still trade for just about 4 hours in the market. Markets open at 10 and close at 2:30 or something like that. We talked about South Africa. I think their markets open at 9 and they trade till maybe 4 p.m. That's something we should be able to catch on easily if we really want to improve, the liquidity in these markets. We should introduce new products. We've talked about products like futures and options and derivatives for such a long time, and it hasn't happened. We are hoping that some of those things, with the intensity of the work going on that, if we can improve that intensity, some of those should happen in the very near future and should improve the market. And then we would like to see more listings, right? Last year, CardinalStone worked with Aradel PLC to list the Kaisers and the professionals, and of course, the government side, we want policies and we want the will from their side to want to encourage those companies to come to the market. In the end, it's a win-win situation for everyone because those companies become more transparent, we can see their revenues, and the government can get more tax revenues. We're not going to get close to South Africa with just the banks and a few multinationals listed.
We've seen recent macroeconomic reforms, and we want to find out how these have impacted on your industry, telecommunications, and let's just start from there.
I share the optimism about 2025. I think we're headed in the right direction. I think we've borne a lot of pain, 2023, 24, but the worst is over. And we've borne a lot of pain by moving towards free market economics. We haven't even seen the advantage of the tax reform yet. That will happen once the bill is fully passed and executed. But what this allows us is to be an efficient economy. Now, for my industry, it has obviously been painful. The price of diesel from 2022 till now has gone up about 380%. Foreign exchange, the price at which we procure foreign exchange to expand our networks has gone from 465 to 1,565 odd. So it's been very, very painful. And there is one step, as far as I'm concerned, that's critical in moving towards free market economics, and that's allowing the telecoms industry in particular to have the ability to set prices and be moderated by competition, just as the fuel prices today are done, and the price of food, cars, whatever else it is that you can. So it's been very impactful, the move to free market economics. It's had a negative impact on the short term, but I think on a long-term basis it will create huge opportunities for the entire economy. And you know now that at least we have the authorization for the tariff increase. And the potential that the telecoms industry has to drive other sectors of the economy is tremendous. Digital penetration in the financial services ecosystem has a potential for payments to go from 5.5 trillion in 2019 to, and it's gone now to 566 trillion in 2024. So that has an exponential potential to grow. We're probably still in the range of 60% cash transactions, particularly in rural areas. Agriculture can add an additional 3.3 trillion by 2028. Manufacturing has the potential to add 465 jobs between now and 2028, and the same goes for healthcare, trade, etc., etc.
The reforms that we have come up with and we've been discussing for many months now are positioned to help businesses to reduce cost of doing business, but also reduce the nuisance, the challenges of just engaging with these tax elements or these agencies. There are so many agencies that collect taxes. I have my members at different times, at the middle of the night, people stop you on the road and they're charging different things. And certain times when you are stopped, you have to pay. I mean, it just makes sense to pay and get it out of the way. If you are importing an item and custom tells you, no, the HS code you're using is the wrong one, if you don't agree with them, you may spend like 3 months arguing if it's the right one or the wrong one. And while you're arguing, the demurrage is counting. At the end of the day, you have to pay. So sometimes businesses are saying, look, let's just pay and get on. And all of those type of activities will affect the confidence level, of course. But even those who want to invest in Nigeria, they then look in and they see that businesses are struggling, and that affects their ability to make the decision to invest in Nigeria. So for us, it's a welcome development. We are advocating seriously that the noise around it will reduce, and we can just get on with the business of the day. But the business community is waiting for these reforms to kick in so that we can begin to smile, we can enjoy the benefits.
So what we've seen in the past is that some of those costs are not allowed to be adjusted to reflect the realities within the market. So when people are actually paying, they are paying for energy below the marginal cost of producing the power. So basically, moving into cost-reflective tariff is basically saying, let's ensure that some of those variables are adjusted to respond to market dynamics. And when you do that, then you accelerate investment. The other thing with regards to regulatory environment is what Taiwo has been doing. Regulatory environment should actually enable the business. or as against you're coming in with a posture of you want to take from the business and make it extremely impossible to actually enable them to succeed. So enable the business, be transparent, ensure that you give them opportunity to make that investment. So that's what I was saying about regulatory environment. And to close that, I think we are in an era that is reform-oriented. This is a government that appears to listen, and I think opportunity exists for anyone in any sector to try and find a way to organize ourselves in a strategic manner to push areas where we think reforms needs to take place.